So that's exciting. That's exciting. Because I think, as I said, I think Old World is a great game. I think the problem with it is it's kind of like hard to. I find it personally hard to like keep involved with it because it's like quite a complex rule system.
This is Mikey from Hellstone Wargaming. He's one of the bigger Warhammer YouTubers who mostly covers Warhammer 40,000, but he does have an interest in history with Old World. He's also someone that I've played against and worked with, so when I heard he was looking to dip his feet back into the Old World, I offered my help in building him the Tomb King list of his dreams. The first section is the funny story of how we first met, but if you want to skip that, I'll put a timestamp in the video for when we actually start building the list. Enjoy. We're going to talk about some Old World stuff, some how to build some Tomb King lists, because as I understand it, we have a mutual patron, and I don't mean the website, I mean more as in the old patron of the arts, Ginger Steve, who shines, smiles upon us graciously, and you're going to be going with him to the TSN Arena Teams, a 4-man team event at the end of April, so we need to build you a Tomb King list.
I need a Tomb King list, and I need to learn how to play properly.
Well, I can help with 1.5 of those, I reckon.
Excellent.
Old Worlds, as long as you're playing with obviously good intent, and you know when rules come up where it's kind of 50-50, if you're more erring on the side of your opponent, you know, as with all Warhammer, people are really forgiving when you're like, oh, that's a weird interaction, I've never seen that before. They're like, yeah, me either. I think I learn something every time I play the game, and I've been playing far too much.
Well, I'm hopefully in safe hands. That's what I'm hoping for. So I've heard you're not too bad.
So
I'm in part of Team England. Mr. going to the WTC in September.
In September, yeah. I'm glad you said it because I didn't feel like I could say it. It's bragging when you say it, but when someone else, you can be like, "Oh no, I mean, it's a small game, you know. It doesn't mean anything."
There's like 7 people there. Doesn't it?
No, 8. We're all on the team. Really looking forward to it. I wanted to get into international play when I got back into 40k after like a 9-10 year gap, whatever it was, and moving to Old World, I've definitely found my footing. And also, it is a bit of a smaller game, so it's an easier ramp in compared to some of the absolute killers I'd face week in, week out.
I'm not glazing again. However, the problem is with Old World is everybody who was good at it 20 years ago is playing again. So
that is true.
They kind of like, what do you call it? Like Shark Tank. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Little shark. Kind of like they know everything, even though it's a new game. Kind of.
What I find is the people who played like 6th and 8th edition keep going, wait, hold on, that's not a rule, or that's not how this worked in 6th, which is fun. And I came in relatively unburdened by previous knowledge. And I just had to put the training weights on and losing almost all my games for the first sort of 4 months.
Nice.
But it was a fun experience. I didn't ask, how are you for time? Are you in a rush, or do we have time to tell some fun stories before we get started?
We got time. I'm all yours then.
Perfect. I think the story of how we met is a fun one, and I think it's worth.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah, no.
You just talk about my home if you want.
Because it's great as well, because it only paints me in a stupid light. So
makes me look like a twat, but
no, I don't think so.
In a fun way. In a fun way.
We'll give the context. So, 2021. It was 2021, wasn't it? The first LGT post-COVID lockdown. It was my first proper event that I was going to. I'd gone to like a couple of Throne of Skulls and stuff, but I was aiming to get back into 40k, play it competitively, having a great time. I was playing Orc Buggies.
I Team England quote.
I was bringing Orc Buggies. I was having a good time. I'd ruined a lot of people's days, but you know,
it was terrible Orc Buggy time, wasn't it?
To be fair, it was the 3rd best list, but it was oppressive. If you were playing Space Marines, you were not going to have a good time into me, because I was like, oh, cool. So my profile is just like, I hit you on 4s, I wound you on 3s, you're down to a 5-up save. You're dead, you're dead. Can't even hide from me. Okay. So I do apologize for my sins. But so that year, it was terrible. There was so much traffic. It was really hot. You couldn't get petrol within like 100 miles of London. So actually traveling down
it was like the petrol scare, weren't they? Because everyone was like, oh my God, they might run out of fuel. And people were like, no, they won't. And then people were like, you might run out of fuel, I'm going to buy some. And then because everyone was buying some, they're like, we have actually run out of fuel now.
Yeah.
We are such a normal country.
it was nuts. So I think it took us like, I want to say 6.5 or 7 hours to get down from Nottingham, which is pretty nuts because I think it's like 3 hours if you drive inefficiently normally. So that was not ideal, but we got there.
Because I think the long and short of it was kind of like we'd met, chatted a little bit, and then you were like, I was like hanging out with people. You were like, I might hang out as well because my train's for like an hour. And I was like, where are you going? You're like, Nottingham. I was like, I'll just give you a lift. It'll be fine.
Oh no. There's lead up before then. This is getting back. So
okay. I didn't realize getting there was awful as well.
Yeah. Well, maybe you had a better time, but it was a slog to get there. So get there, Saturday, play a game. I think we were round 2 that we played, and this year at LGT there was no table space between the tables. It was grim, and I had a massive bit of like 2.
I think it was round 3, because I remember my first 2. I'm pretty sure it was like the last game of the day.
Oh yeah, it might have been round 3. I remember it was day 1. I think I might have won my first 2 and come in with a false sense of security.
I ran into this dickhead.
Well. So I had this massive bit of wood that I had magnetic strips on, and if anyone remembers the buggy list, it took up a lot of like space. So it was something like a 6-foot long. No, maybe it was a 4-foot long by 2-foot wide bit of board, and I had that on the table. So I'd had to move some terrain to get some stuff down. So we get talking, do my deployment, yada yada, and I've moved some deployment, and that matters later on down the line. But we're talking, and as you do, you're like, oh, where have you come from? And you're like, oh, Sheffield. I was like, oh, cool, I'm Nottingham. I'm not too far away from you. And I go, you know what? There's my mates have been trying to get me to go to these events, Hellstorm Wargaming. Have you ever been to one of those? And you just sort of stood there and looked at me, wearing a shirt that says Hellstorm on it. And I just remember you went, I am Hellstorm.
No, I'm Hellstorm Wargaming. Everyone in the room stood up one at a time.
Which
we were like Spartacus moment.
Yeah, I want to make clear, it did not feel egotistical at all. It felt very sort of like, are you okay, hun?
It's because I was wearing the t-shirt at the time.
I was fully locked in. I was just like, I'm here. I'm going to play some games. I'm just going to talk to someone. I'm going to have a good time. So that was great. And then we played a game. Realized that I'd moved the terrain, so I had to move the terrain back. But all my measuring that I'd done to stop you from deep striking in and destroying me was predicated on the fact that the terrain was where it shouldn't have been. And you pointed at my general, like, is he important? And I was like, yeah, if he dies, I'd probably lose the game. And then you did some measuring in, because I'd messed up where the terrain was. I'd left a big gap for you to deep strike in. Anyway, I got 12 points. And for record, for anyone who hasn't played 40k, you get 10 points for having painted models. So it's the worst I've ever been destroyed.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, because I was like really worried about the match as well. I was like, oh god, I've got all the buggies to play against now, Jesus. And I was playing Space Marines at the time. I wasn't having a good time. And then it was just like, oh, there's a at the back there. You were like, maybe, and I was like, let's just put a drop pod there to see what it looks like. And then I was like, yeah, okay, this is it now. Blow up the character, 2 planes come down, game's over.
That was 100%. It was very much like I'd played the matchup before, and I knew whoever got the alpha strike off was probably going to be all right. And then you went first, and I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I've got a chance. I've got loads of defensive stratagems and stuff I can layer. And then you're like, oh, if I kill that, what happens? And oh, well, I lose the game, so...
Was it like a -1 to hit stratagem or something?
Yeah, there was a -1 to hit stratagem. I think I could.
You can't target characters, etc. And then I was like, but he's the closest now.
He is the closest now, yeah. And I could have given them all a 5 at ward, I think, by making my my custom force field bigger. There was a lot of stuff that I'd set up and measured very painstakingly that really didn't matter because I scuffed it. But yeah, good times. And then. Yeah, and then
good 30 minutes of deployment and then about 20 minutes of game. It was fun.
To be fair, a good way to end day 1, because you don't want to be hanging around. You just want to sort of like not have to have your brain on for the 3rd game if possible. But yeah, I remember you offered me a lift back in the direction, and I was like, oh, it's fine. I've got a train. And then the next day I came and found you. I was like, hey, am I still okay to grab a lift with you? After I thought about the reality of getting to the train station and everything. So that was I was fun. I can't remember who you had in the backseat, but we spent about 3 hours trying to write some bullshit list where we just spammed Eldar avatars. I remember that.
It was Josh, if you remember him. He was playing Eldar as well.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and then we were like, "I'll just drive you back, it'll be fine." And then we got stuck on the M1 for what felt like 5 years.
It was pretty brutal. It was a long wait. But
long but enjoyable because of the company. It was enjoyable.
I really enjoyed it. I got to. No, I'll not say on stream. Never mind. No, yeah.
We had a great time.
Yeah, it was good. And then obviously did some casting with you for one of the Goonhammer days. That was fun. I played the Saturday, got my head caved in by Josh Roberts, and then I was like, cool, now is time to go and sit in a chair.
Does do that for me.
It was such a fun game. I really like Josh, and once he knew he was ahead, and I was just interested in learning the matchup, and I was like, I'm dropping tomorrow anyway. He was just like, okay, and this is what I'd have done different. That was a good time.
Sure.
Cool. But should we talk Old World then, I guess?
Yeah, so since then, you've gone into Old World. Are you sharing your screen with me, or should I just put your screen on my screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. So if I share screen, that's the one we're looking at there.
There we go.
Good stuff. So
do this, and I could do that. So I'm going to a team event with Mr. Ginger. That's his full name, Mr. Ginger. Last name Steve. With him, so I'm going to be playing Tomb Kings because they're the army that I have, but also they're my first love. Used to play Tomb Kings back in the day. Didn't know how to play Warhammer. Always used to play against High Elves. So it was always terrible.
Sure.
But I've got no idea what's good. I kind of well, I've got a really pretty dragon, so I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put some warriors in there, and then I'm going to put some other bits and bobs in there.
Hell yeah. So the way that the TSN Teams event works, if it's the same as the last one that you did last year, is that you can't share common magic items. And anyone who hasn't played Fantasy, if you look at the magic items that we've got here, you've got all of these common magic items that are shared between all of the armies. However, I've been told, Steve said, you can have pretty much whatever you want, but you can't have Lore Familiar, which is the one that lets you pick your spells instead of having to roll for them. So,
right, okay. That would be handy.
It would be. It is one of the things that Tomb Kings pretty heavily lean on, but that's fine because we can just go in a slightly different angle.
I'll just roll. You know what I mean? Worry about it.
So one of the things that you could have done is gone for a wizard on Dragon, who then picks specific spells and flies around and tries to bot people with a magic staff. I don't know that that's the best course of action here, but you could go for 2 just lords on dragons if you wanted to. If you want to go full balls to the wall, that's definitely an option we've got.
That does sound pretty balls to the wall. And I've played an event with Double Dragon, and it did not go well because I kept like feeling like I was getting like flanked a lot. Because obviously that's the worst thing. It was that I was playing it at the time where I had one dragon with the Armor of Ages, I think it's called. You know, where you like re-roll successful wounds. I know that doesn't work against dragons. Doesn't work on dragons anymore. Really cringe. It's a great enhancement. I think it should be still in. So that I don't know if 2's the best idea, but 1 definitely. You know, and 1 is a big fat hammer. I love that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if we play with maybe 2. But I would err on the side of caution for that. Yeah, that would be balls to the wall. I just want to play for like 25 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm just going to throw these guys at my opponent's head and hope.
Monster Mash is a great way to do that. You need to learn less rules if all you're doing is straightforwards. Here's a bundle of stats. That's a solid way of doing things. So the Armor of Ages is still pretty good on the Tomb King. For anyone who doesn't play Old World, basically what happened was, you've got this suit of light armor, and every time that someone wounds you successfully, you say to them, no, pick up the dice, re-roll those successful wounds. But you can't combo that while still using the dragon's better armor save. You can still use it, you just are limited to only that armor save, the light armor, which is a 6-up instead of a 4-up. But
rubbish.
A lot of time, that's still pretty decent. They got rid
of that Chaos Dragon shit there, didn't they, as well?
Yeah. So
what's the Chaos Dragon one? I can't remember.
So Chaos can be reroll all 6s to hit, which isn't even a magic item. Yeah. It's a 10-point enhancement that they can just get.
Of course.
because reasonable things. But I reckon if we start off with the Armor of Ages, give you Talisman of Protection, and then a Biting Blade and a Shield. And what that does is it gives you a really tanky general who does only have a 5-up armor save, but they have to reroll all wounds against you, which is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, sure. So you're not taking that save very much, hopefully.
Yeah, or even if you're taking the save, a 5-up or a 4-up doesn't make too much difference. A lot of the time, AP2 is the sort of like, that's the default good AP that you're going to be seeing a lot of. So a 0 save or a 6-up save is kind of whatever. You've still got a 5-up ward and a 5-up regen, so you're still pretty protected from the Talisman protection. Steve in the chat says, put him a second in and 2 Necrosphinxes, which I think, we'll put in what you've got to start with. I think that's definitely a good direction to go in.
Okay. I wasn't sure if 2 dragons would be very good, but maybe if 2 dragons are good.
I have made my name by playing 2 dragons. That's been my strategy. Okay. I was playing bad armies.
I have 2 dragons, so.
Oh, you've got 2 dragons.
Yeah, I've got a priest on dragon and a king on dragon.
No worries. So. I believe as well, Steve is very willing to supply alternate models, so which I will be building. So there's plenty to.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
No dragons. I think we should go all infantry.
Oh no! There is a really interesting list you can do, which is because obviously there's arcane journals which give you Army of Infamies, which is kind of like your detachments. You can go Royal Host, I think it's called, or Royal Clans, whatever it's called. Basically, barely any casters, lots of infantry, lots of royalty, you know, your Tomb King, your Tomb Prince. And you can do some bullshit where you take 130 models in one unit and they all have bows and they all have poison, so they just gun down one unit a turn and are basically impossible to interact with.
That sounds insane.
So that came up in an online league and everyone thought it was the end of the world, and then just no one's playing it since. I think because it's absolutely miserable to play on the tabletop. And it definitely has some counters, but yeah, that's one direction. If you wanted to make me suffer, you could go in, but please don't.
They still sound fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do need 1 unit of infantry. You said you got some warriors as well, didn't you? How many warriors have you got?
Yeah, I've got the starter box mostly painted, so I think I've got 40 warriors.
Okay.
So I've got plenty to play with. 40 warriors, 30 odd archers, and then some chariots as well. To hand.
Nice. Okay, sweet.
And then I'm a Warhammer player, Ed, so I've just got loads of bits knocking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. It's how it goes, isn't it? I've got a half-finished army sort of just lying around all over. I need to finish off. So I think if we're starting off, we've got the Tomb King, we've got some warriors. We can go back and tweak these. But I think we just cave to what Steve was saying and put double Necrosphinx in. Necrosphinx is obviously incredible.
Necrosphinx is so sick as well.
Yeah, they're just cool. a collection of not okay rules. 195 points might not feel cheap. I remember coming from 40k to Old World and looking at things and finding it hard to evaluate. So I'm like, 200 points. That must be really good. And then you kind of play a few games. You're like, I only roll like 4 dice for this model. So when it's got all of these extra things, you're like, this is not okay. So it's T6, which is about as high as toughness goes. It's 6 wounds, which is nuts for a single like 200-point character. 5 attacks, one of them that's basically a cannon on the decapitating strike with, one
famously, I hate that attack. I don't know if you've heard.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
So for context, for both chats, because when the game first came out, I read the rule as what I would thought it would mean, because in 40k it's very clear what this means, and in the Old World it's very different. But it says it makes 1 additional attack with this weapon. So I was rolling like 5 attacks it's got base, and then rolling the cannon attack on top. Or then I was like, well, you can just, nothing says you can't make all of your attacks with this. It just makes 1 additional with it. So I was like, okay, well, I can just roll 6 cannon attacks. And that made so much sense in my head.
Yeah, so I know you got
those rules made sense.
You got a bit of shit for this, and I will say I actually completely understand where you're coming from on this, because this.
But that's because you played 40k.
Yeah, but also to back you up a little bit more, it's the way that all of the other rules are written. When you have to make a single attack, it says This model must make one attack with this weapon. This is, as far as I'm aware, the only model that's printed that says you may make one additional attack each turn with this weapon. There might be other ones as well that I've missed, but it's usually you have to take one attack with this weapon, which is a lot more clear. It has since been FAQ'd, so you can only make one attack.
Well, they FAQ'd it, but didn't update it. They just like kind of went, no, you can only make one attack, and it's like, why don't you just update the wording to be like, you can make one single attack with this weapon.
It's the classic sassy Games Workshop FAQ answers where it wasn't clear in the first place. But I'll be honest, the older I get, the more I appreciate those FAQs. I do read them and laugh to myself sometimes. But even without that,
I won't be doing that anyway. One attack with the cool attack, five with the other.
Absolutely. But they also come with stomp attacks, D3+2 stomp attacks. Obviously, stomp attacks are really strong. They're strength 5. You're a behemoth, so you've got AP on your AP 2. So this is just a really efficient bundle of stats. And it flies, which is fly 9, really fast for undead. Undead generally can't march, so you're kind of limited to just moving 4 inches a turn. If you've got fly and you're undead, you can still march. So these things can just go 18 inches a turn without needing any sort of outside assistance, which is really nice to have.
I didn't realize they could march with fly.
It's one of those like hidden within. So if you've got fly X and you choose to move by flying,
unless they have fly,
you can march as well.
Interesting. Cheeky.
It's one of the classics where old world, pretty much all the rules you want are there, but you better, good luck finding them. You need to go to page 274 of the rule book, and you're like, why is it under this section? Like, if you fly and you start your move in difficult terrain, you don't take a penalty. It's only if you end your move in the difficult terrain, and that's in the fly rule instead of the terrain rule. No. Anyway,
because I think that's a great thing. I think Old World is such a great rule set.
Yeah,
one, know it. Trying to find the rule, it feels like a bit of a pain. But I think it's a great game. I just think that rule book could do with another 3 days of editing.
I would say so. I think it's the best first edition of any fantasy rule set we've ever had. But it definitely needs work. It's copy edited, I would say, poorly. But we don't play Warhammer for tight, well-written rules, otherwise we'd be playing chess. But they really capture the soul of how the game should feel, so that's good. And
sure.
I feel like when they come around to a second edition, hopefully they do like a 1.5 edition or something like that, and we get a tightening up of the rules instead of a complete rework. But yeah, so we've gone for double Necrosphinx because big dumb monster, go forwards, kill stuff. It's hard to go wrong with those. Yeah, absolutely. I think let's just put a second dragon in because a
king or dragon, the second one.
So one of the problems with the way this edition works is you start off with a toughness here, which is T5, and then when you buy a mount, it gives you plus stats. Dragon. Exactly.
Yeah.
+1 toughness. Now, if we have a quick look at what a high priest is only toughness 4, so your dragon's only T5. You could go for a high priest on dragon, and it wouldn't be wrong, but because you can't pick your spells, you can't go for the sort of illusion build where you go for spectral doppelganger, where you make 2d6 auto hits with your weapon, which is a really fun build, but also if you're rolling your spells, just 1/3 of the time you don't get it, which would be very sad. So I think we just say, fuck it, we ball, and go double absolute brutal monster of a dragon. So if we went, for example, Bone Dragon here, and this one can't be anywhere near its defensive, so maybe we just go Ogre Blade, which is the best magic item, the best magic weapon in the game, I would say, arguably. Yeah. Or at least the common magic items. So you're going to hit like a truck, you'll be strength 7, AP 2, all of your attacks will do multiple wounds, which is really nice. And then we can't give you another ward save, so we're going to buy you the Shield of the Warrior True. 30 points gives you a 5 at ward save against shooting, which is fine. It's aggressively okay. It's better than nothing, but not as good as the talisman. But that still leaves you 98 points, and you do have to take some sort of wizard. So we're just going to put a level 2 mortuary priest in there because legally we have to. It's still good to be able to pick from your own lore, the lore of Nakara. You're probably going to be taking Incantation of the Desert Winds, and you're going to be...
that's the move again, right?
Exactly. Because you're only a level 2, a lot of the time you're only going to be getting the bottom level of it, where you pick a single unit to move. But if you've got a big sort of bunker of skeleton warriors, it's probably just going to be that one, realistically.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Ian says, cheeky little
So
chump.
you can... Oh, go on.
No, you first.
I was going to say, it's handy having the priest as well, because obviously they can heal the dragons as well, right? If they're nearby.
They absolutely
Heal.
can.
And it's only a single wound, but still.
Yeah. So there's a build where you can go very heavy on casters and keep things alive quite well. This is definitely going the opposite direction and starting with more stats and just being like, YOLO, we're going to run them over. But having that in your back pocket to just like add a couple of wounds back onto a dragon is really nice to have. So
yeah,
we've gone for double Tomb King, double Necrosphinx, and we've got a big unit of Skeleton Warriors that you've got already. I think if we're going pressure, because we've got to fill up another 450 points, and most of that has to go into core, I think Chariots are a not terrible thing to put in. Chariots are pretty underwhelming, but they're big base width, so when you're running your opponent down, you can make it hard for them to outmaneuver you, because you just go, well, where are you going to go? I'm literally taking up the space.
Yeah, because this is going to be like 5 big bricks of stuff, right?
Yeah, you're just going to be, basically the
Quiet.
the Vegas croupier, all in, just push them along with a stick, just full send everything forwards. It's I think a really solid strategy.
I love it.
In teams, it's probably got a lot of legs. You just get your team to put you into whatever stands up to that the least, and you absolutely wreck face.
Sure. Okay.
So chariots are solid. What you can do with the skeleton chariots is you can give them something called... The problem with this is they all have different names, and I keep forgetting which one's which. I think it's the Icon of Rakan.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this lets you make a free reform at any point during its movement. Now, this is a very good item. It also makes playing them incredibly more complex. So I'm going to say let's not bother doing that, just for the sake of not having to...
I don't mind complex as long as I understand it before the game rather than halfway through.
Yeah. So just to briefly talk about why it's complex. So this gives you, unless you're charging, any time you move, just any movement, you can make a single free reform. This includes an overrun. So you roll your overrun dice. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, we can leave that in.
Over in any direction you like.
Yeah, it kind of is. I haven't played around with it yet, but a reform is literally just like around the center, so you can do some shenanigans with that. We'll leave that in,
Hey, just go, here's my chariots. I'm going to rundle into this unit, and then when you're half dead or like running away, I'm just going to turn around and go the other way again.
Yeah.
Why not? For 40 points. Is this a real item? Are you sure?
It's very good. It's definitely something that's a little bit
insane.
Slept on. I'm gonna give a shout out to Anubis, who's been playing around with it from the German community. He's the one who put me onto it. There's some potential for shenanigans there. Definitely worth mentioning it to your opponent before the game. Otherwise, there's real potential for feels bads when you go, and I'm in combat with someone else now. Like, wait, what?
DK.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
That is brutal. All right, so we still need 138 points. So I think probably, again, something relatively beefy and something relatively wide base. You could go for another unit of chariots, or you could go sepulchral stalkers. This is they're the non-ridden,
the snake riders,
yeah,
right?
the ones without.
I know the normal ones.
Yeah, without the mount, they're just holding the halberds themselves.
Sure.
I think
very cool unit.
Yeah, they're super cool models, and I think they're aggressively fine. And this is, if you go for the sepulchral stalkers, let's say you've got 3 of them, I think this is the unit that you probably cast your double move on, because it gives you reserve move. Chariots come with reserve move built in, which is one of the reasons they're really good. And the skeleton warriors, let's be honest, they're just a bunker for your wizard. They're just kind of trundling up the board. So
40 ablative wounds.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely.
Well, 40 plus revive.
Yeah, 40 plus revive, and it's only going to be D3 plus 2 a turn, but that's enough to be incredibly annoying, which is always where we want to be when we're playing undead. And that leaves.
Does the stalkers still do that Medusa gaze thing?
Yes.
Petrifying gaze.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I don't know that it's good because normally undead shooting is really solid because they've got a rule called Arrows of Asf, where you never take penalties. You always hit on your ballistic skill, which. Again, if you're playing 40k, you're like, yeah, of course they do. In Old World, we got modifiers like a motherfucker. Like, you think you're hitting on 4s? You've moved. You're firing at long range. You're firing at skirmishes. All of these things add up. So they don't have the rule that stops them from taking hit penalties. But sometimes you're just going to be within half range and you maybe don't need to move. And you're like, okay, cool. I've got a strength 2 that shoots against initiative, ignores all your armor saves, and it does multiple wounds. So dwarves are absolutely seething.
Yeah, sure. That's a cheeky one.
It's one of those that you don't take it for this, but you're like, oh, you know what? I've got this rule. Let's just, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got some beefy units to mostly just fill up the space, while your 2 dragons, 2 necrosphinxes do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Just have the best time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could put some other bits and pieces in, but I think the real star of the show for me, in terms of unbelievably undercosted monsters, we've got the Tomb Scorpion. I don't think we can fit 2 Tomb Scorpions in, which is a shame, because they are nuts for 70 points. They are a Movement 7 Swift Stride model, which means that they are surprisingly fast. They've got Vanguard, so they don't need to be, you move them before the game starts, so they're already getting towards where they need to go. And also, if you get lucky, you can just kill a dragon, because they have decapitating claws, which have Killing Blow and Monster Slayer.
Yeah. Okay, there it is.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, nice.
They should kill you before you get to swing. However, Old World's a game with not very much reliability built in, so there's a real world where
you're rolling like 4 dice, right? If you roll 4 ones to hit.
Yeah, so like my elf with a great weapon tries to kill you. I only hit with 2 of them. I wound with 1. You're definitely swinging with swinging at me before I get a chance to dragon you. So there's some real risk in there. 5 points to give at ambushes. It's just a nice flexibility pick. Obviously,
is that such a deep strike?
Yeah. So ambushes is board edges only, but mortuary priests have From Beneath the Sands, Tomb King. Yeah, it's like a deep strike, but it's fully within 12 of your wizard and outside of 6 inches of enemy models. So it's just a nice little flexibility pick that you can just drop.
Yeah.
Something really annoying in front of your opponents, which
mini monster.
Exactly, yeah.
Enjoy.
The real reason you take the ambush, in my opinion, is if you want to be playing this sort of aggressive list, you want to be going first. In Old World, if you finish your deployment first, like you put your models down before your opponent does, you get +1 to the roll-off to go first. So having the option to put something in ambush, which doesn't take up like one of the deployment slots, that is quite strong.
Okay, so they go into reserve before you start deploying, I guess.
Absolutely. We're going to put it on the Sepulchral Stalkers as well to give you the flexibility. I think a lot of the time you're going to deploy both of them, realistically, but just having that flexibility for 11 points between the 2 units is really, really solid. And that puts us at 24 points under the maximum, so we're kind of just balling out here. We could...
I would say we're a bit stuck for another Scorpion, aren't we, here, unless we drop the Dragon down, but that's...
Yeah, so the Tomb King, we could lose the Ogre Blade and go cheaper. I think we'd really struggle to get the full 70-odd points to get another Tomb Scorpion. You'd have to make some aggressive cuts. In fact, let's just sort of map it out and see what it...
Yeah, you'd have to reduce the skeletons to minimum.
Yeah.
And then... how many points are they with the ambushes? 75. We're not far away.
I think we can actually do it, yeah. So if
we're 2 points away, we can find this.
So we've dropped the core down to 34 skeleton warriors, because they're kind of just ablative wounds, points denial, that sort of...
They're not doing anything.
They're a bunker for the mortuary priests. They're not going to be interacted with most games, I reckon. So if we drop 6 of those, and then the Tomb King, if we drop the Shielded Warrior True down to a Charm Shield, which is a once per game 5-up ward. So you're definitely a bit squishier than you were, but you weren't getting that ward save in melee anyway, so I don't know that it matters. Then all we need to do is free up...
Does he need a shield for the Charm Shield? Or is it just...
No, so this is... He's not buying a normal shield. The magic shield is like a full all-in-one jobby.
Right, okay. So he's not upgrading it. We can drop that off and save his 2 points.
I think I've just clicked it on. It was off before, and then I've just clicked it on like a muppet. But if we then take the ambushes off the Sepulchral Stalker... Oh, no, that puts us below.
No, we can't do that.
I guess we just take the ambushes off the Tomb Scorpion, and we say... Oh, no, hold on. We can have one with ambushes and one without. There we go. 1997 points. and that gives you
All right.
6 monsters to run at your opponent, plus 3 chariots and 3 sepulchral
This
stalkers.
is my sort of list.
Yeah, this is
This
full
is
violence.
actually my sort of list, actually. Yeah, this is just, I have monster.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
Have dice will stomp. Stomps are really good, which is obviously something all monsters get, because you just take out the needing to hit. And Old World, again, comparing it to 40k for your chat, in 40k you've just got a number that you hit on. In Old World you compare weapon skills, and undead don't have
old school.
great weapon skills, so you're going to be hitting on 4s a lot of the time.
Yeah, okay. Is there any way we can save that 2 points for the double ambush, or is that it?
Maybe there is. Let's have a look. So the only
2 points. It's just everything's big bricks into it. So
yeah, the problem with monsters is these are just like a straight 195 points, so there's no wiggle room on tweaking them. Because we're at 500 core, so we can't take anything out here. This is. I mean, we don't necessarily have to go for the biting blade. You could just go for.
Yeah, but
flail.
What's a biting blade do?
So it's strength user, so you're strength 5, AP -2, and then armor bane 1. So you'll be making 4 attacks at strength 5, AP 2, and any 6s are AP 3.
Sure. Okay.
Which is not super impressive, but it's more about keeping him alive compared to the other one who fucks.
Yeah, we've got like a hammer and anvil type approach for each dragon.
Absolutely.
One of the we don't need ambushes. I don't think we can save it, can we?
No, I think not without making the rest of the list worse, realistically. Steve says in my chat, I'm loving this reminding a 40k player the granularity of list building. That is the best thing about Old World, in my opinion. The list building is amazing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you guys play with like 2 points, and we have to play with like 150. It's like,
that's
I can't fit anything in my list because there's 70 points down or something stupid.
You can't even drop to like 8 models or something with it mattering. It's pretty grim.
Yeah, weird.
Lovely, but I think that's pretty solid. I think that's a list that you can put on the table with a moderate understanding of the game and have good results with.
Yeah. Okay. So what lore would you go with on the priest then? Would you go for elementalism or would you go for
good shout
Nakar and undead ones?
So, because you're a level 2 and you're rolling your spells, you've got no reliability in there. So you're kind of just going, what's the best lore across the board? Normally, what you'd do with a level 2 is you'd go, what's got the best signature spell, which is illusion, because they've got your unit is -1 to hit. But because you're going to take your own signature spell, the reserve move spell, you can't double up and take the lore signature. I think I like elementalism the most. It's got some duds in it. Flaming Sword is one of the worst spells of all time. Takes some incredibly poor melee hits. Plague of Rust, just a great debuff, making your opponent -2 to their armor save. Earthen Ramparts, giving a unit a 5-up ward, and you can cast this on units that you're not in, so that's really solid. You know, just giving a Necrosphinx a 5-up ward. It does mean you can't charge, but you know, if you're moving up for 1 turn and you're trying not to get cannoned off the board, giving a big thing a ward save is really nice. Wind Blast is a decent spell, and then TMP, Travel Mystical Pathways, is really good. It lets you pick up a unit and move them. Callum points out elementalism is too high for level 2. That is true. The casting values are very high on it.
I was going to say, because we only got level 2, a little concern was not being able to actually get the spells off.
I think the problem, what I'd say though, is
a lot of them feel quite high all over.
Yeah, all 3 of these laws are pretty high spell values. So Necromancy, we're looking at the good stuff. We've got 8 on the Magic Missile, which is not bad. Spectral Vortex on 11, you're never casting that. Curse of Years on a 10. I think realistically they're all going to be equally as difficult to do anything. Mostly this is just here to give you a legal list and also give you the chance of getting the reserve move. Yeah, like if you could take Battle Magic, that would be the go-to, but unfortunately you only get all of the other good things that Undead get. So I guess you've got to, miss out on one thing.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say, are we worried about the fact that we've only got a level 2? Because a lot of people have been running level 4s, right? And if I've only got level 2, will I be able to deny them very well? With just level 2?
Yeah, level 4s are the way to go. They definitely are the way to go. And I think it would be better to have a level 4 wizard. But because you can't pick your spells, I feel like a Tomb King wizard on Dragon is just you're kind of making the whole list worse to shore up one of your weaknesses. So I think what I would say is, because it's more of a teams list,
just go smash.
yeah, like there's probably out of the 4 armies, one of them you're going to be really worried about the spell casting. If they've got an illusion caster, that's because illusion can stop you from charging, they can put column of crystal in front of you so you can't see anything, all of these good things. So you can, if you just don't go into that army, sure, if they've got a wizard who knows like 5 magic missiles, that's an exaggeration, but like they go do loads of magic damage, you go, I don't care, my entire army's T6, you're going to wound me on 6s, I'm just going to run at your face.
Yeah, sure, okay. And that's kind of like the benefit of list writing for teams versus singles, right? Because in singles, you'd be like, I don't know what I could play against. Now, I don't know the old world meta, but you could play against high elves.
Yeah.
Famously very good at casting. But like in a teams event, you'd hope you wouldn't have to. And if you are, you're just trying to scrape points from them rather than trying to actually like win the game, as it were.
Yeah, it depends on your role.
Lose badly.
Yeah, so this army I've written with the intent of probably being one of the push armies, where you just go in and, like, realistically, depending on what your opponent is, you can probably table someone on turn 4. You've just got that sort of full pressure force. The armies that really want magic defense are the ones with like cheap like squishy skirmishes. So I play a lot of elves, and if you cast a fireball on a unit of 7 elves with T3 and no armor save, they're going to evaporate. If someone casts a fireball at you, you're like, I guess I'll heal back those 4 skeletons next turn. And if I don't, it was 16 points. So I think you can get away with it. If you're playing singles, I definitely want a wizard in there. But because you can dodge the one army that's going to have an illusion caster and just stop you from doing your thing, I think you're going to be okay to not play around with magic.
Okay. So, without giving me every battle plan for every game ever, what would your initial plans be, like general tactics with this list? Would it just be put everything on the front line and hope you go first, or would you like play some units more reservedly? Obviously, the skeleton warriors and mortuary priests is kind of a given.
Yeah.
But like, how would you like? Would you just like send the dragons in with the necrosphinx flanking them? Would you use the necrosphinx's flanks? What was your like rough idea of what would you do with this?
So this is very much a full send army, which is pretty much just like you're taking up the space and you're trying to stop them from getting around you. The main thing that you're going to want to do is set up overlapping charge arcs, because what you'll find is armies can either deal with dragons through whatever they're bringing, whether it's their own dragon or something like that, or a Bretonian player who's bringing like a monster slaying duke, or they're playing an army that can get out of your charge arcs. You've got so many fast things that hit really hard that you can overlap your charge arcs and make sure that they can't get out of them. So I would say it literally is just a full send list. Make sure that you're playing around their charge ranges. So if you're playing against like a full cavalry army, for example, and they can charge 16 inches, you sit 16.1, you get a charge 19 inches or 18 inches. So you've got the advantage there. And and just sort of like play around the range, and then as soon as you hit the go turn, full send everyone in and smash.
Yeah, because I suppose the problem with this is if it's piecemealed, it'll kind of crumble quite quickly.
Yeah. If your general dies, you obviously do have the risk of having to take crumble tests, which is why we've made the Tomb King super tanky. So you've got to reroll all wounds against him, got a 5 up armor save, a 5 up ward, and a 5 up regen. So it's a lot of wounds to chip through.
Yeah.
Outside of...
Would you keep him back? Would you play more reservedly with that one then, or would you just kind of go... Just send him in. Just
send it, yeah.
Here he is.
The only thing...
Because he's so tanky.
Yeah, he's got triple save, which is really hard to deal with on a T6 model, especially one that makes you re-roll all of your wounds against him.
Yeah, true.
The only thing that would worry me would be the Killing Blow, the Monster Slayer Baron, but you also make him re-roll successful wounds. So they've got to they've got to roll a wound into a 6 to actually have a chance of killing you. So you've got less worry about that.
Sure. Okay. So, as someone's pointed out, it's the priest who dies.
It is,
when the army crumbles. It might not be the Tomb King, but still.
Yeah.
If he's getting got and I've got triple dragon, essentially quad dragon in their face.
Yeah.
With the necrosphinxes, I think they've outplayed me really well.
Yeah. But also, because that is a good point, it is if the mortuary priest dies, because that's your Hierophant. If the Tomb King is alive, it's giving an 18-inch bubble of leadership 10, and the way a crumble test works is you take a leadership test. For each point you fail, you lose a wound. if you're making loads of leadership 10 leadership tests, you're probably not losing any or many wounds unless you get really lucky.
Sure.
So you're probably okay there. Ian brings up as well terror bombs. Your entire army causes fear, and all of the good stuff causes terror. So not only do they have to deal with that, they might just run away from you, which is like winning a combat, but way easier.
Yeah. And then maybe you utilizing the chariot's absolute bullshit icon to just play around with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. I wasn't sure about Double Dragon, but then I think you've really sold it to me.
Nice.
You know?
I think one of the... And people are probably going to give me shit for this opinion because people don't love playing against dragons. It's not like a taboo, but, you know, people are like, oh, dragons are too good. I'd rather not have to play against them all the time. I think one of the most fun things you can do is push 4 flying monsters forwards on the board and just be like, I see you've brought a melee infantry army, Mr. Bond. My Tomb King is up your ass, Mr. Bond. Checkmate. It's a real
because there's a lot of discussion of playing, what was it, like 1999 +1 tournaments, because then you can only take we're trying to limit how many dragons you can take in a 2K game, right?
Yeah. So
that was a lot of discussion. I presume a lot of that died down.
Yeah, we're in the midst of discussions about whether comp's a thing. There has been rumours flying around of an FAQ coming that will make infantry great again, which might come at some point in the not-so-distant future. But, you know, remains to be seen. We'll have to see how that one goes. But I'm feeling like Games Workshop are actively supporting the game, so I don't feel like it needs to be community managed, at least.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So, right, Ed, this has been really helpful. Because I had it might have been 2 dragons, but it would have been a priest probably.
Sure.
Just because it's pretty. But I think this has been super duper helpful.
Perfect. Well,
have you got any
coming on.
Final advice? Before I go.
Yeah, roll good, don't roll bad.
Beast. I can do that.
Only
4 dice, bro.
my actual advice would be the charge that looks long, it's not as long as you think it is because of obviously the way Swift Stride works. Because your maximum charge range is 18 inches, you're like, yeah, but I can actually go 21 inches. So just YOLO, just make the long range charges. You know, if you fail them, you might lose the game, but just don't fail them. Beast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. If you've reached this point and you haven't already, I would really appreciate a like, a comment, a subscription if you haven't done those things. It just helps me get seen by more people, boost me up in the algorithm, all of the stuff that the YouTubers do like to say. If you would like to support me in my goal to become a full-time YouTuber, I would absolutely appreciate that. You can become a member below. There are various perks to those, name at the end of the videos, all that good stuff, but it also unlocks some VIP areas in Discord if you become a Longbeard or Ground Knight tier supporter. Those VIP sections are the only parts that are locked away in Discord. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. I'd recommend that you should. We've got about 450, 500 people on there. It's a great place for discussion, a lot of fun. I do try and chime in as much as possible. And it's also where the Fix My List show lists are put, and also if you are one of the Ground Knight or Longbeard tier supporters, where you participate in choosing which list I play in the monthly Pick My List series.